Today's video is about image annotation for an AI in the context of the FINET project and the development of new annotation tools. So the project we worked on is part of the thesis of Ereari Metuaria, which is a PhD student in the Imorphen team, and it concerns the development of an AI capable of recognizing the phenological stages of apple trees, which would run directly on agricultural machinery as embedded technology. It would be able to identify structures of interest and characterize them according to their stage of development. So first, let's put some context for the project by viewing how it works more precisely. So the machine first acquires data directly in the ORCUD and then identifies the structures of interest, which are then assigned to a phenological stage. The process database then allows the computation of two parameters, which are floral emergence, which aims at identifying the date when 50% of the flowers are open, and flower intensity, which calculates the number of flowers produced per tree and per year. So this is actually a tool for biologists to determine the impact of environmental factors and also on the time of flowering and the number of flowers produced per tree.
So before we delve deeper into the subject, we need to explain how AI works and why it needs a training database. So first, it's because AI needs examples to learn. So it learns by pattern recognition and term association. For example, the AI we trained associates a thumbnail to a phenological stage. It also needs a curated database for better pattern recognition. And what we mean by curated database is relevant data. So you need to train the AI exactly on the data you wish to identify. You also need the database to be balanced to allow the reduction of biases. So what we mean by balanced is that, for example, for the AI that we helped train, you need to have as much pictures of a certain phenological stage as you have for another. You will have more accurate predictions. For the database size, larger isn't always better. Sometimes for certain models, small but relevant and balanced database is better than a large, unfiltered, and biased database. However, there is also a need for a large amount of data to prevent the model from overlearning, so the database size has to be carefully chosen. So AI, the training database also allows the adjustment of parameters, so following the principle of neural networks. So the information you give the AI is the input, and this information is passed through numerous nonlinear mathematical transformation, and each transformation is monitored by a parameter, and the weight of this parameter is the importance of this transformation and can be modified by training. So the output is determined by both the input and its weight. AI also learns by making mistakes, because when you're done training it, you'll have to test it on another pool of data. So using the pre-learned patterns from the training database, AI will make a prediction, and then the prediction is compared to the truth. There's a computation of the error rate of the AI, and this error rate allows the modification of the prior parameters to adapt and then reduce the error rate. So this cycle is repeated over and over again for a better accuracy of prediction. One thing that we haven't mentioned here is that the quality of the training data defines the capacities of the models. So a text recognition trained AI will not be able to generate pictures. For example, the AI that we used here only recognizes pictures. It will not be able to recognize text. So an AI will recognize specifically what it has been trained on and nothing else. After you're done training it, the AI will generalize the learned patterns to new situations.
The AI was trained on many terabytes of data from 4 different sites in 4 different European countries. So you can see here how many sets of data each site provided for each development stage, and we will only focus on the flowering part here. So for reference, here is the Pagiolini scale that we used for phonological stage association of the thumbnails that you can see on the upper row. So to annotate these thumbnails, we used Napari, um, which is a fast and interactive image viewer, which also happens to be open source. However, it does rely a lot on private fundings and especially on the Chan Zuckerberg initiative. It is built on scientific Python stacks, so it can use NumPy, SciPy, and scikit-image also. But what truly makes the particularity of Napari is that it does have a vibrant plugin ecosystem due to the fact that it was heavily funded a few years ago by the previous initiative that I told you about. So it could expand its visualization and analysis capacities in a lot of domains, which is why Napari quickly became a reference. It is also very easy to use, and it can be also used to make a link between computer scientists and biologists, which are in need for tools for annotation and image viewing, for example. It has a lot of useful features, namely for exploration, annotation, and also the analysis of large multidimensional images. Um, so what we used here for the building of our AI is the image label of plugin of Napari, which presents as such. So what you've got here are a few curated parameters which allow a better definition of the central image, such as the contrast, the interpolation, and the layering of multiple images, also the opacity of each layer. Here you've got the central image. So here it is only one image, it is not a stacked image. So we will not be using the opacity of each layer and the layering of the images. So well, that's the image display. And this is the open image file for annotations. So as you can see here, that is a lot of images. And here is the labeler in itself, which allows to label each image with a final phonological stage in the Bajolini scale. So once an image is labeled, it is then saved into a formatted text file for an efficient storage.
However, there are some limits to Napari due to the way it works. So its main perk is its vibrant plugin ecosystem, but each plugin has to be Dockerized by the main development team before it is available to the public. So Napari relies mainly on private fundings, and the end of said fundings would considerably delay plugin Dockerization, which makes it a huge flaw. So alternatives are explored for interface development. These alternatives are Gradio and Streamlit, which are Python packages for the development of said interfaces made for model testing, proof of concept, and tools for analysis. So the principle of these packages is that the Python code directly makes a web interface with no HTML and no experience in web hosting needed. So these interfaces can be hosted either locally or online, and they each possess widgets and can allow image upload, which will be really, really interesting if we are looking for a Napari replacement. They're both easy to code, very fast and functional.
However, Napari relies mainly on private funding, and the end of said funding would considerably delay plugin Dockerization, which makes it actually a huge flaw. So the second thing we did is to work on alternatives to be explored for interface development, such as Streamlit and Gradio, which are Python packages. So they allow the development of interfaces made for model testing, proof of concept, and tools for analysis. Each package allows the creation of an interface, and there is absolutely no JavaScript, no CSS writing needed, and no HTML writing needed either. So you need absolutely no experience in web hosting to use it because both packages create the interface on their own and host it on their own on the web. So it can be hosted either locally or online, and they've got tons of widgets and they allow image upload. It is very easy to code, fast and functional. So now let us delve a little deeper to compare each of their features. So Gradio is a package which creates a standardized interface, which is then wrapped around a function that you will have to create. The API is auto-generated and the interface in itself is very simple and elegant. It can also be hosted either locally or on Hugging Face Spaces, which has a very large community and is much more secure and scalable. So it has also a lot of native widgets for machine learning, such as image viewer, audio recorder, etc., etc. So it's very suited for interactive AI demonstration. Very easy to use. However, it does have a quite rigid layout and a limited dashboarding compared to Streamlit, which I am going to present just right now. So about Streamlit, it allows the creation of more complex and data science oriented web applications. It is very flexible and the layouts are very customizable. The dashboards are very interactive and it is also suited for multiple page app creation. It can be hosted on Streamlit Cloud Community, which allows similar advantages as Hugging Face Spaces. However, it is longer and wordier than Gradio, but it does have a better flexibility for dashboard creation. However, you've got to be careful because it does not generate APIs on its own. Thing that can be a little inconvenient is that its native widgets are more generic and not very suited for machine learning. So here we chose to focus on Gradio so that we could show you this. So that's a little script that we developed for image processing from RGB to grayscale to 8-bit with a thresholding bar that is adjustable. So this part is about layout customization and the function association. So as you can see, the script is quite short and relatively easy to write. So after running the script, you will encounter this type of message. So the first one is the local URL that you can copy and then paste onto the web browser of your choice on your computer. And the second one is a public URL that you can share and it expires within a week. However, like I said before, it is also possible to host it on Hugging Face Spaces. And so this is the result that you get. So after importing the image, you can click on the process image button. And what you can see in the upper right corner is the thresholding bar that you can adjust before treating the image.
Well, finally, I would like to conclude a little on what we did on this internship. So the purpose was obviously to develop an onboard machine learning based tool to precisely monitor the budding, the flowering, and the fruiting to understand better the impact of biotic and abiotic factors. We learned a lot of things, especially how AI works, how to create interface with Python packages, and more importantly, how it is necessary for biologists to understand new technologies, because biologists need tools to be tailored to their needs, and because the team that we were on is composed mainly of physicists and computer science people. We were able to see how how they develop tools for biologists and to understand their perspective and their point of view. And it made us realize that we as biologists need to understand and to be able to make the link between biology and tool development in order to have tools tailored to our future needs. So the perspective, of the project that we were working on is the use for example, the precise protection against some threats like insects, bacteria, when the plant is the most vulnerable, mainly when it is flowering or when it is budding. So ultimately, it could also enhance competitiveness for farmers and has lots and lots of use. Thank you for listening.